These are the Ponzi Papers. The Ponzi Papers are 26 articles written by investigative journalist Max Azzarello, who tragically passed away April 19th, 2024. I learned about Max spreading pamphlets and wondered what they said. I couldn't find anything on YouTube about his theories, so I decided to read his articles from the Substack and Instagram here. Since doing so, I've become very interested in them. As the narrator, though, I do not endorse or support anything he writes and do not claim any authorship. I simply find his writings interesting and wanted to share them and discuss them here. I am not a professional YouTuber, so please forgive my quality. This time we're looking at The Simpsons. Part 17, How The Simpsons Brainwashed Us. Posted November 17th, 2023. If you're just tuning into this series, I posted this booklet alleging the wildest totalitarian conspiracy imaginable with a map to a sea of proof. That link was taken down from Reddit. The big picture, cryptocurrency is history's largest Ponzi scheme that will soon collapse the world economy, all so the U.S. government and their criminal allies can escalate the theft of our entire livelihoods with a fascist world coup. The media is central to this totalitarian con. For decades, the public has been told that the American dream is dead, that we've suffered moral decay, that we are too divided to improve things as our problems mount. It's cult leader behavior on a mass scale. They tell us we're in a hell world. They make certain that it's true, and they bleed us dry. We've already covered how Reddit swarms with trolls to divide us into irony-poisoned tribes, and how our most elite universities manufacture outrage around the Israel-Hamas war in the news. In this installment, we turn to one of the crown jewels of this criminal propaganda machine, telling us how far from grace the American has fallen. Every week for the last 34 years, The Simpsons. Harvard connections. The Simpsons is closely linked with Harvard University. More than 30 Harvard alumni have written for the show, including two of the show's first writers in 1989, Al Jean and Mike Reiss. Why is that relevant for us? First, because Harvard is a nexus of many of the richest people on the planet. The odds of any random person becoming a billionaire are about 1 in 3 million. The odds of a Harvard alumnus becoming a billionaire are roughly 1 in 5,000, or 600 times more likely. Second, because it's ruthlessly criminal, some of this has been covered in the media. In June of this year, their body part theft ring was exposed. The Unabomber Ted Kaczynski was subjected to psychological torture as a Harvard student in the 1960s, administered by former OSS, the precursor to the CIA, officer Henry Murray, which seems to have been part of the CIA's MK-Ultra brainwashing program as well. With this research, we learn much more. Jeffrey Epstein's program for evolutionary dynamics at Harvard, where Epstein held an office for over a decade, was a Ponzi factory, as is Harvard Innovation Lab's Launch Lab X. Each full of fake science startups. They pretend they're investing but steal the money instead. The Social Network is a crime cover-up story. Facebook was created by this network for the express purpose of surveillance and control through monopolizing information. Harvard is heavily involved with the cryptocurrency Super Ponzi, investing in crypto companies via the school's endowment. Zuckerberg's Libra cryptocurrency was established in Switzerland so they could funnel out stolen money through Credit Suisse, and they hold Bitcoin speeches in the Harvard Memorial Chapel. With that, we owe it to ourselves to look closely at what The Simpsons has been telling us. Let's take a tour of Springfield to understand what we're learning from our cartoon criminals billionaire factory built. Don't forget, you're here forever. In And Maggie Makes 3, Homer quits his miserable job at the nuclear power plant and instead gets his dream job at the bowling alley. With Maggie on the way, they need more income, so Homer goes back to work for rich, evil supervillain Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns makes Homer beg for his job back and gives him a plaque that reads, "Don't forget, you're here forever." In what is viewed by many fans as one of the show's most touching moments, Homer tapes photos of Maggie to the plaque, so it reads, "Do it for her." Take a minute to soak that one in. The school with all the evil billionaires churns out writers for a show that says we have no choice but to work for evil billionaires for the rest of our lives. And what is our great resistance? We get to put up pictures in our cubicles. Do you know the phrase, work sets you free? It was written on the gates of Auschwitz and the other Nazi concentration camps. It was an evil, criminal lie that reinforced complacency by telling Jews and other victims complacency, also the fascist government could steal their lives and labor. Does this sound familiar? It's the same message as this touching Simpsons episode, that the best thing we can do for ourselves and our loved ones is to slave away for billionaires. That's what the Harvard grads all tell us anyway. Marge versus the monorail. Ponzi schemes play a massive part of the story of our world. If you want to understand Ponzi schemes, just turn to 1993's iconic episode Marge versus the Monorail, written by celebrity Harvard alumnus Conan O'Brien. Fast-talking con man Lyle Landley pitches Springfield to invest in a monorail. Marge sees the obvious need. She wants the town to repair Main Street, but the townspeople are swayed by Landley's grift. The monorail crashes on its first ride and Landley runs off with the town's money. When you think of Ponzi schemes, simply think of Springfield's monorail, a fake promise that the con artists don't invest in so that they can steal the money instead. There are usually complex financial specifics to make it work, but that is the heart of a Ponzi, the fake promise. And wouldn't you know it, the Simpsons TV show with writers from the school with the Ponzi factories told us that us oafish, divided Springfieldians had no choice but to be swayed by the dazzling con man. What you see is what you breathe. From the cover of Life in Hell Comics and Stories, what you see is what you breathe. These were the words that adorned the cover of the first issue of Simpsons creators Matt Groening's comic book, Life in Hell, first published in 1977. Let's take that in one more time. Groening said, "What you see is what you breathe." In other words, what we see in our lives shapes who we are. He called it life in hell. Doesn't life feel like we're in hell in many ways? The daily grind, the rising prices, the worsening problems, the partisan anger, the endless wars. Turns out that was the plan all along. They've been telling us we're in hell while they make things so hellish so they can line their pockets. While it's much easier to prove that a piece of the media is criminal than specific individuals who made it, not everybody who helps make The Simpsons is in on the brainwashing, of course. This lets us know that beyond a doubt that Matt Groening has been an evil death cult puppeteer for the last half century. It's not proof on its own, but it becomes proof when we see all the other evidence of the criminal hell world propaganda, not just on The Simpsons, but across decades of film and television, as we'll see below. Lisa the Iconoclast. Suffice it to say, I have had one hell of a year. Here's hoping my memoir gets decoded. It's got all the tropes as these discoveries unfolded in real time and I ascended into indescribable madness. Just a side note, here's hoping my memoir gets decoded comment by Max. That's his link to his Instagram. I spent yesterday copying over 6 hours of his content from Instagram. It's a huge, huge content with more links and more of this. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of what he says I ascended into indescribable madness. I definitely see that, but he also collected a lot of things, and he did some pretty amazing things I'm going to talk about in an upcoming episode, so hold on to that. That's going to be an interesting one, but I digress. My apologies. Let us continue. As I got deeper into the rabbit hole, there were months of pleading with friends and family members to take me seriously as my proven claims grew more outlandish, only making me look crazier in their eyes. I was the most alarmed person they had ever seen, and they took me to be alarming. I tried to explain we were victims of a bigger con than any of them could realize, But they would tell me it's impossible. I tried to show them proof after proof as I found myself with a sudden power to explain and predict news headlines, but they couldn't see it and wouldn't engage. They would tell me I'm misguided or that I need therapy. They might concede that there are crimes taking place, but they'd always follow up with, "That's how it's always been," or "But we can't do anything about it," or "Wouldn't we be worse off trying to change it?" Then, as I pieced it together, Matt Groening's brainwashing supervillainy, I remembered 1996's Lisa the Iconoclast, and I realized that I was living my own Simpsons episode. In the episode, Lisa discovers that Jebediah Springfield, the town's founder and hero, was secretly an evil pirate who tried to kill George Washington. Realizing that Springfield is built on a criminal lie, she's trying to alert the townspeople, but it is met with ridicule, hostility, and disbelief. In the end, Lisa realizes that the townspeople are happier not knowing about the fraud at the heart of Springfield, so she keeps the secret to herself. Where had my friends and family learned to doubt me completely? From The Simpsons, among other places. Luckily for us, we know these are secrets worth sharing, and that truth profits all. Lightning round. If you'd like more examples of criminal propaganda in The Simpsons, there could be hundreds more. Here are some I'll breeze through for brevity's sake. In The Computer Wore Menace Shoes 2000, Homer promotes wild conspiracy theories online before getting kidnapped and sent to an island by the mysterious Deep State. When we know that this criminal network promotes nonsense conspiracies all over the internet themselves, we can recognize that they were telling us this is normal. Want to see a supervillain Easter egg? See if you can find the one hiding in Homer's online handle, Mr. X. What was the purpose of the Simpsons movie? To prep us for COVID, which was all to mask the theft of trillions via cryptocurrency by letting us know that black swan events happen and that the government has powers beyond our comprehension. You may have heard The Simpsons predict the future, that the show mysteriously predicted major world events such as Trump's presidency, the Titan sub, and September 11th. That's because they know the scripted future. They want to make themselves seem ominous and powerful, and they want us chasing bullshit conspiracy theories around it. See if you can explain how that and the Jeffrey Epstein 9/11 painting help prove that Bush did 9/11 in the context of these findings. Beyond The Simpsons. There are some damning quick hits of other film and television serving the same types of criminal interests. Once you get a feel for how this works and just how pervasive it is in the criminal propaganda has been, I'd wager you could think of some others before long. For the most brazen admission I know of, see Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove from 1964, a classic black comedy about nuclear destruction in the Cold War. Many are familiar with the film's bizarre subtitle, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Once we realize we've got criminal brainwashing going on, we can make sense of it. He got us to stop worrying and love the bomb, and he told us he was doing it. Kubrick's others work. Clues into many other key themes. A Clockwork Orange tells us that watching ultraviolence can make us turn away from it, knowing full well that it would desensitize us to it. 2001: A Space Odyssey tells us that we've been violent for millions of years in the opening, tells us to fear future technology, knowing the entire tech sector would be used in fearful ways. Eyes Wide Shut is just like QAnon. Make us think that the elites are nonsense evil ritualists so we don't realize they are evil financial criminals. Mike Judge is a no-brainer. Beavis and Butthead and Daria tell us to embrace irony, stupidity, and apathy while we mock the earnest hippie loser teacher. Office Space lets us daydream that we escaped the grind, though they never let us leave. Silicon Valley masks the organized crime, reinforcing that the tech titans are the main characters who shape the world that we're helpless to consume. I hope Idiocracy speaks for itself. Oliver Stone's Wall Street flipped morality on its head and told us point blank, greed is good. Why? So we'd believe it, as millions of us have come to do so since. When people think of John Carpenter's They Live, the first word they think of is likely obey. The film tells us that we're all corporate slaves, so they continue to enslave us. Author Michael Lewis wrote The Big Short to cover up the fact that investment banks like Bear Stearns were funneling Ponzi money and supposed to collapse. Don't Look Up instills learned helplessness by telling us climate change will kill us and it's too late to do anything about it. And ad infinitum. Pretty wild, right? We've got brainwashing secret evil Hitlers who've lured us into a psychological death camp. That means per our employee handbook, we get to abolish our criminal government, work together, shut off the brainwaves, build an infinitely better world that meets all of our needs, and laugh about this rotten farce forever. And we're going to make such good TV shows about it. For Phil and Bryn Hartman, whose deaths reek of a cover-up. So that's the end of the Simpsons episode. I just want to make a couple comments that he didn't make in here that I don't exactly agree with. One, Stanley Kubrick's comment of in A Clockwork Orange, ultra-violence can make us turn away from it by watching it. He's referring to the scene where the main character has been arrested and is volunteered for a psychological treatment where he's strapped to a chair. He's injected with a medicine which makes him feel violently ill. And then he is forced to watch violent images that he used to like, making him Pavlov dog connect the violence to the medicine's sick nature, causing him, anytime he thinks of doing violence in the future, he'll become incredibly sick. So I don't think that Max understood what that movie was actually saying in that particular sense there. The other thing is, when he talks about The Simpsons demoralizing us, I'm shocked that he doesn't bring up that George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton were both on The Simpsons. And they were given a very positive feedback. And I don't think, if you were going to be this reckless critiquing comedy show, that you wouldn't be more comically critical of those people. And if you wanted to connect something, that's something a little bit better than Marge and the Monorail. Thanks, guys. See you at the next one.